The obstetrics and gynecology department gate was crowded with people, the smell of disinfectant mixing with the perfume on pregnant women, making one feel nauseated. I stood at the corner of the corridor, the prenatal test sheet in my hand sweaty from being clenched. It wasn't my prenatal test sheet, it was a registration I had put my name on, but I hadn't gone in, because I was at the end of the hall and saw Pei Xiaoheng, my husband, a man of 3 years in marriage, was carefully supporting a woman as they walked out of the fetal ultrasound room. The woman wore a loose floral dress, her belly already prominently swollen, a clearly 5 or 6 months pregnant. I know that woman, Zhou Ruoxi, my college classmate, my former best friend. She also lived in the guest room downstairs in my house for 3 months, saying she had just divorced and had nowhere to go, and I kindly took her in. Result: she implanted trouble for my husband. Pei Xiaoheng wrapped one arm around Zhou Ruoxi's waist, and with the other hand he carried a bag and a report. That attentive appearance is something I haven't seen in him in all 3 years of marriage. He has always been cold to me, saying the company is busy, saying there are many social engagements, telling me not to bother him. Now I finally understand what he's busy with the 3rd trimester checkup. Xiaoheng, do you think the baby will look more like you or like me? Zhou Ruoxi's voice was sweet to the point of cloying, deliberately raising the volume, as if wishing everyone in the hallway would hear. Xiaoheng smiled and said, either way is fine, as long as the baby is healthy. I took a deep breath and walked out from around the corner. The high heels struck the floor, the clack-clack sound crisp and bright. The moment Pei Xiaoheng looked up and saw me, the color drained completely from his face. He instinctively wanted to loosen his hold on Zhou Ruoxi, but Zhou Ruoxi grabbed his arm with one hand and held him even tighter. When Zhou Ruoxi saw me, she not only didn't feel guilty, but flashed me a sweet smile and said, Sister Tang Ning, what a coincidence. Coincidence? I looked at her coldly and said, it's quite a coincidence. I logged in to check something and didn't expect to run into you here. Pei Xiaoheng opened his mouth, his voice dry as sandpaper. Ning Ning, let me explain. Explain what? I interrupted him. Explain why you're accompanying another woman for a prenatal check, or explain that the child in this woman's belly isn't yours. Zhou Ruoxi immediately acted wounded, touching her belly and saying, Tang Ningjie, don't blame Xiaoheng, it's all my fault. I originally planned to come alone, but Xiaoheng insisted on accompanying me, saying he's afraid I'll fall or get hurt. You know, when someone is pregnant, the body is heavy, so his concern is normal. She spoke with righteous indignation, as if she were the true wife and I were the person who shouldn't appear. There were already people around stopping to watch the fun. A woman pushing a baby stroller had her mouth opened wide enough to fit an egg, and a security guard stood not far away, hesitating whether to step forward. I did not shout or cry out to heaven for justice. I simply reached into my bag, drew out a file folder, took out a stack of papers, and handed it to Pei Xiaoheng. Divorce agreement. I had already drafted it long ago, just waiting for today. Pei Xiaoheng was stunned. He lowered his head to look at the stack of papers, his expression changing again and again. He reached out to take them, then withdrew his hand, and said, Ning Ning, we'll talk about it at home. This isn't a place to speak. Home? I smiled. Which home? The apartment you rented for her, or our marital home, the place you haven't gone back to in 3 months. Zhou Ruoxi tugged at Pei Xiaoheng's sleeve, softly saying, Xiaoheng, Sister Tang Ning's mood isn't stable. How about we leave first and wait until she's calm before talking? Want to leave? I stuffed the divorce agreement into Pei Xiaoheng's hand, then dug a pen out of my bag and said, if you sign it, I will leave with nothing. I don't want the house, the car, or the savings. Pei Xiaoheng's lips trembled. Ning Ning, don't be impulsive. I do have feelings for you. Are you emotional? If you have feelings, you let her move into my house. If you have feelings, you let her become pregnant with your child. Pei Xiaoheng, do you think I'm a fool? The bystanders watching the scene grew more and more. A middle-aged woman couldn't help but interrupt, saying, oh man, this guy isn't any good. His wife is right here, yet he lets another woman be pregnant. Another uncle followed up, exactly. If he were my son-in-law, I'd break his legs. Pei Xiaoheng's face flushed and paled alternately. He wanted to pull Zhou Ruoxi away, but I stood in front of them, not letting him move an inch. Pei Xiaoheng, I'll give you 3 seconds to decide. Either you sign this agreement and we part on good terms, or I'll expose your business to the media. Let everyone see what the Pei Group's president is really like. Your choice. Pei Xiaoheng's face completely changed. He was scared. The Pei Group is currently negotiating a big project, and if a scandal breaks out now, the stock will surely fall and the project will fall through. He has worked hard for so many years to build the family business. He cannot let it be ruined by a single woman. He looked at me, his eyes full of hesitation and struggle. Zhou Ruoxi hurriedly said, Xiaoheng, don't be afraid of her. What kind of splash can a divorced woman make? I sneered and said, Zhou Ruoxi, do you believe me if I call the TV station with one phone call? Tomorrow's headlines will be about you, the other woman of Pei Xiaoheng, pregnant and pressuring the legitimate wife. Guess how people online will scold you? Zhou Ruoxi's face went pale. Pei Xiaoheng gritted his teeth and pulled the pen from my hand. He signed his name on the divorce agreement, stroke by stroke, as if he had used all his strength. After signing, he handed the agreement to me, his voice hoarse as if he had cried. Ning Ning, I'm sorry, I didn't listen to him, took the agreement back, and put it in my bag. Then I turned around, stepping in high heels, and walked to the elevator step by step. A voice came from behind. Zhou Ruoxi said, Xiaoheng, don't be sad. Isn't it better if she leaves? After all, my belly is your son. Look at the ultrasound. The doctor said he's especially healthy. Pei Xiaoheng did not answer. I walked into the elevator and pressed the button for the first floor. The moment the elevator doors slowly closed, I saw Pei Xiaoheng look up and glance in my direction. His eye sockets were red. So what? He got what he deserved. The elevator doors shut, and I leaned against the wall of the elevator, letting out a long breath. There are no tears, no heartache. Only an indescribable sense of relief. 3 years of marriage felt like a nightmare now. The nightmare has finally woken up. I looked down at the flight ticket order on my phone. 3 days later, fly to Paris, France, one-way ticket, never returning again. Chapter 2, a maternity matron in one sentence. The night we left the hospital, I returned to the place that used to be called home. Neither Pei Xiaoheng nor Zhou Ruoxi came back. Of course, they should be busy celebrating now. The piece of meat in Zhou Ruoxi's belly had finally driven away the original wife, and Pei Xiaoheng could finally bring the person in with a clear conscience. I packed a few clothes, locked the divorce agreement in the safe, and then dragged the suitcase away from the big house we had lived in for 3 years. The moment the door closed, I turned and looked back. In the living room there is still our wedding photo with Pei Xiaoheng hanging. In the photo, I am smiling so brightly, and he is smiling so reluctantly. I should have known at the time of the marriage that Pei Xiaoheng married me simply because I was obedient, sensible, and not clingy. He needed a vase to place at home, not a person who truly loved him. Unfortunately, that vase shattered today on its own. I moved into the hotel. For the next 3 days, I completed all the procedures I needed to: household registration transfer, property division, divorce registration, all done in one go. Pei Xiaoheng's assistant called and said that General Manager Pei asked me to think it over again, that he could offer me a compensation. I said no need, and asked him to keep it to buy formula for Zhou Ruoxi. The assistant had been silent for a long time, then finally sighed and hung up the phone. 3 days later, I dragged my suitcase and stood in the airport terminal. There were 2 hours left before boarding for the flight to Paris. I found a seat, opened my phone, and wanted to take one last look at the news back home. Then I saw explosive news. Pei Xiaoheng is in the hospital. It wasn't a car accident. It wasn't a sudden illness. He fainted from anger. Who made him faint? Under a month of confinement by a maternity matron. I clicked on that news article and read it from start to finish, and after finishing I almost burst out laughing. Here's how it is. The day after my divorce, Pei Xiaoheng brought Zhou Ruoxi into the Pei family mansion. Although Pei Xiaoheng's mother, Li Guilan, looked down on Zhou Ruoxi, she reluctantly accepted her for the sake of her grandson. In order to let Zhou Ruoxi rest well and carry the baby, Pei Xiaoheng paid a high price to hire a gold medal confinement nanny to take care of Zhou Ruoxi's daily life and diet in advance. The confinement nanny was named Wang, in her 40s, with more than a decade in this line of work, and she had served all kinds of wealthy and powerful families. The most notable trait of this person is that she talks a lot, and she talks a lot in a very blunt way, saying whatever she thinks that night. Pei Xiaoheng rarely ate at home. CONF confinement nanny Wang brought over a bowl of chicken soup. Zhou Ruoxi was lounging on the sofa, one hand caressing her belly, the other hand holding her phone for a selfie. Pei Xiaoheng sat nearby with a benevolent fatherly smile, and even reached out to touch Zhou Ruoxi's belly, saying, "Son, hurry up and come out. Dad can't wait to meet you." Nurse Wang stood nearby watching and suddenly said a sentence. "Mr. Pei, may I ask a discreet question? What are you and Miss Zhou's blood types?" Pei Xiaoheng was startled and replied, "I'm type A. Ruoxi is also type A." Nurse Wang let out a soft sound, and then her expression became very nuanced. She glanced at Zhou Ruoxi, then at Pei Xiaoheng, her lips moving as if she wanted to say something but didn't manage to utter it. Zhou Ruoxi was unhappy and said, "Sister Wang, if you have something to say, just say it directly. Don't beat around the bush." Wang Yuezhao hesitated for a moment, but in the end she could not hold back. "Mr. Pei, I work in this field and have seen many children, according to genetic principles. If both parents have type A blood, the child can only be type A or type O, and it is absolutely impossible to be type B or AB. Pei Xiaoheng said, "I know that. What's the matter?" The maternity nurse Wang Yu glanced at the pregnancy test report in Zhou Ruoxi's hand and said, "When I was organizing Zhou's prenatal checkups this afternoon, I saw that the fetal blood type is identified as B." The air suddenly went quiet. The smile on Pei Xiaoheng's face froze, fading away little by little. He slowly turned his head and looked at Zhou Ruoxi. Zhou Ruoxi's face instantly turned pale, and the phone in her hand dropped to the ground with a crack, the screen shattering along a slit. She opened her mouth, her voice trembling. "Xiaoheng, listen to my explanation. That report must be wrong. The hospital must have mixed up the specimens." Pei Xiaoheng did not speak. He snatched the stack of prenatal examination reports from Zhou Ruoxi's hand, flipped to the page with the fetal blood type identification, and fixed his gaze on that line of text. Fetal blood type, type B. His eyes were wide open, and his lips trembled. Then he suddenly stood up. The chair toppled to the floor with a loud crash. Zhou Ruoxi shrank into the corner of the sofa in fright, her voice changing pitch. "Xiaoheng, listen to me. I swear the child is yours. Really, I swear." Pei Xiaoheng pointed at the line of text, his voice almost shouting. "We're all type A. How could we possibly have a type B child? Tell me. Whose child is this?" Zhou Ruoxi burst into tears, tears streaming down her face. She grabbed Pei Xiaoheng's pant leg and said, "Xiaoheng, I really don't know what's going on. Maybe the hospital made a mistake. Can we go to another hospital for another check?" The midwife Wang Yu saw the scene from the side, knew she had pranked, and, holding the chicken soup, she wanted to slip away. Pei Xiaoheng stopped her and said, "Sister Wang, you've been in this line for more than 10 years. If you tell me the truth, what's really going on in situations like this?" Nanny Wang looked troubled, and finally told the truth. "Mr. Pei, I won't hide it from you. According to medical knowledge, two parents with type A blood can never have a child with type B blood. This child cannot be yours." Pei Xiaoheng's legs gave way. He staggered back 2 steps, bumped into the coffee table, and the cups and vases on it toppled onto the floor with a clatter. His face color shifted from pale to green, then to purple. His lips trembled uncontrollably, pointing at Zhou Ruoxi, his fingers also trembling. You lied to me." Zhou Ruoxi was still crying, shaking her head as she cried, "Xiaoheng, I didn't lie to you. The child really is yours. It must be a mischeck. It must be." Pei Xiaoheng suddenly clutched his chest. The expression on his face twisted into a knot. He opened his mouth wide, trying to say something, but not a single word came out. Then, he stood stiffly and toppled backward, a loud thud. As he hit the floor, his eyes rolled back. The whole body convulsed a few times, and then he stopped moving. Zhou Ruoxi screamed in fright. "Ah, Xiaoheng, Xiaoheng, someone help, help." Madame Wang, the old nanny, was also panicked. She hurriedly pulled out her phone to call 120. Li Guilin ran down from upstairs, seeing her son lying on the ground, not moving at all, and fainted on the spot. The entire Pei family was in a state of chaos. An ambulance arrived and took Pei Xiaoheng and Li Guilin to the hospital together. The doctor said it was an acute cerebral ischemia, compounded by extreme emotional agitation causing a disruption of qi and blood to the heart. In plain terms, anger. She fainted from anger. After I finished scrolling this news at the airport, the corners of my mouth couldn't help but lift into a grin. Is the baby in Zhou Ruoxi's belly not Pei Xiaoheng's? Then whose could it be? I suddenly remembered that when Zhou Ruoxi was staying at my house, she would go out for a walk every night, and it would last 2 or 3 hours each time. I used to think she was going to the gym or shopping, but now it seems she was meeting men. She really knows how to have fun, living in someone else's house, sleeping with someone else's husband, and even carrying someone else's child, and finally making Pei Xiaoheng the one who picks up the pieces. What is this called? This is called karma. The boarding announcement rang out. Attention passengers traveling to Paris, France. Your boarding now begins. I stood up, dragging my Suitcase toward the boarding gate. Pei Xiaoheng lay in the hospital. Zhou Ruoxi cried her eyes out at the Pei family, and I was about to fly to France to start a new life. This world is truly fair. I walked into the boarding corridor without looking back. The world behind me has nothing to do with Tongming anymore. Chapter 3. Flying to France. The plane cut through the clouds, and most of the passengers in the cabin were asleep. I was the only one with my eyes open, watching the surging sea of clouds. Outside the window, 11 hours of flight, and I felt no sleepiness at all. My mind keeps replaying the news I just scrolled past, and the more I think about it, the more ridiculous it seems. Pei Xiaoheng is a man who's been shrewd his whole life, scheming his whole life, and in the end, he fell because of a woman and a live-in nanny. Why did he marry me in the first place? Because my dad entrusted the Tang group to me before he died, and Pei Xiaoheng set his sights on that land of the Tang group. He thought that if he married me, he could naturally merge the Tang group into the Pei group. Unfortunately, he didn't realize that although my surname is Tang, my mother was driven out of our home by my father years ago. I grew up with her, with no relation to the Tang family at all. The Tang group's enterprise had long fallen into my uncle's hands, and I owned not a single share. Pei Xiaoheng spent 3 years realizing he was spinning his wheels, and he could not bite into the Tang group's meat at all, so he began looking for other women outside, and Zhou Ruoxi was one of them. He thought I was a soft persimmon, easy to pinch and discard, but he didn't know that this soft persimmon concealed a nail inside. The plane landed at Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris at 7:00 in the morning local time. I carried my suitcase out of the terminal, a breeze with a hint of coolness blowing against me, and the air was filled with the scent of coffee and bread. I took a deep breath, feeling as if I had come alive again. In the airport lobby, a woman waved at me. It's my college classmate Lin Xiao. Back in the day, we studied abroad in France for a year together. She stayed in Paris to work, and I returned to China to get married. Lin Xiao ran over and hugged me, saying, "Tang Ning, you finally made it. I've heard everything. That Pei Xiaoheng isn't a good guy. You left him." I smiled and said, "Don't talk about that now. First, take me to the place I'll be staying." Lin Xiao helped me drag my suitcase, and as we walked she said, "I've rented an apartment for you in the 15th arrondissement. The environment there is really nice. You settle in first, and you can look for a job slowly. No rush." I got into Lin Xiao's car, watching the foreign scenery rush by outside the window, and a strange kind of unspoken exhilaration filled my heart. The streets of Paris, and what I saw on television, were exactly the same. Ancient buildings, bustling crowds, and cafes on the street corners, all infused with a romantic atmosphere. Lin Xiao drove while asking me, "By the way, you haven't forgotten your French, have you?" "How could I forget? I was the top student in the class back then." Lin Xiao smiled. "That's good. Let me tell you, our company is hiring recently. If you're willing, you can give it a try. The salary isn't high, but it's enough for you to live." I said okay. When we arrived at the apartment, Lin Xiao helped me carry my luggage upstairs, then showed me around the nearby supermarket and subway station. The apartment wasn't big, one bedroom and a living room, but it was tidy. From the window, you could see the tip of the Eiffel Tower. After Lin Xiao left, I stood alone by the window, watching that iron tower in the distance glinting in the sunset, and suddenly felt my nose sting a little. Not because I was sad, it's because I have never lived for myself ever since I was little. I listened to my mother, "Study hard, don't cause trouble." When I grew up, I listened to Pei Xiaoheng, "Stay at home to support him and educate children, not to interfere with his work." I am like a puppet on strings, never knowing which path I should take. Now, the line is cut, I am free. The next day, I went to Lin Xiao's company for an interview. It was a multinational trading company, specializing in import and export business between China and France. The boss was a Frenchman named Pierre, in his 40s, with a big beard, and he looked very kind. He can speak a little Chinese, and during the interview he kept praising my French, saying that I am exactly the talent they need. I started my job smoothly, as a marketing department assistant. The salary isn't high, but it's enough for me to live in Paris. That's how I settled down in Paris. Every morning I take the subway to work, and on the way I buy a cup of coffee and a croissant. At noon I eat lunch with colleagues at a restaurant near the company, chat and laugh. In the evening, when I get home, I cook for myself, then settle on the sofa to watch French TV dramas and practice listening. Life passes plainly yet meaningfully. I thought I could live quietly like this, and forget everything from the past, but I didn't expect that Pei Xiaoheng had no intention of letting me go. One afternoon a month later, I was in the office organizing files when my phone suddenly rang. It's an unfamiliar number. I hesitated for a moment, then answered the call. A hoarse voice came from the other end of the line, as if he had cried for 3 days and 3 nights, Ning Ning. Where are you? I froze. How did he know I changed my phone number? I didn't say a word and hung up directly. The phone rang again, and it was the same number. I hung up again, then the calls came one after another, as if they wouldn't stop until they achieved their goal. I simply blocked the number. 5 minutes later, another number called in. I picked up the phone, and this time it was a strange voice. May I speak with Ms. Tingning? I am Mr. Pei Xiaoheng's legal advisor. Mr. Pei would like to talk to you. I hung up, then I sent Lin Xiao a message. If anyone asks for my address and workplace, no one is to say a word. Lin Xiao replied immediately. What happened? Pei Xiaoheng is looking for me. Lin Xiao sent a series of shocked expressions, then said, don't worry, I won't tell even if you beat me to death. I thought that would be enough, but I underestimated Pei Xiaoheng, since he can find my new phone number. He can also find out where I work and where I live. 3 days later in the evening, after I left the company gate from work and was about to head to the subway station, I suddenly saw a black business vehicle parked across the street. The car door opened, and Pei Xiaoheng stepped out of the car. He wore a wrinkled suit, his hair was a mess, dark circles under his eyes, and the whole person looked thinner by a full notch, as if 10 years older. He saw me, his eyes instantly reddened, and his voice trembled as he called out, Ning Ning. I stood at the company entrance, staring at him coldly. Colleagues around him came out in groups, and when they saw the scene, they slowed their steps. Someone whispered in Chinese, who is that man? Another person said, I don't know, it looks like you came to see Dunning. Pei Xiaoheng walked toward me, stepping slowly, as if someone who had been ill for a long time. He stopped in front of me, his lips trembling for a long time, and spoke a sentence that almost made me laugh out loud on the spot. Ning Ning, I'm here to take you home. Go home. What does he take me for? A runaway wife? I looked at him and said, Pei Xiaoheng, have you lost your mind? We are already divorced. Pei Xiaoheng's eye sockets reddened even more. He reached out to grab me, but I stepped back and dodged. Ning Ning, I was wrong. I was deceived by her. The child in Zhou Ruoxi's belly isn't mine. She lied to me. I know everything now. Ning Ning, can you forgive me? Let's remarry. I'll treat you well from now on. I looked at his pitiful face, and not a trace of fluctuation appeared in my heart. If he's been cuckolded, does that mean he thinks of me? If Zhou Ruoxi doesn't want him anymore, she comes to me to remarry. What did he think I was? Tongning, a backup plan? I didn't say a word and turned to leave. Pei Xiaoheng chased after me, calling as he ran, Ning Ning, Ning Ning, don't go, listen to me. I quickened my steps and walked into the subway station without looking back. A voice came from behind, Pei Xiaoheng's, with a crying tone, Ning Ning, I beg you, I really know I'm wrong. People in the subway station turned their heads, not sure what happened. I swiped my card to enter the station, got on the elevator, and left Pei Xiaoheng's crying voices far behind me. When I reached the platform, I leaned against a pillar, closed my eyes, and took a deep breath. Pei Xiaoheng has arrived. He won't give up easily, but I'm not the Ning Tang who was at everyone's mercy back then. If he's coming, then come. I let him know what it means to regret at leisure. Chapter 4. The ex-husband chases after. That night, Pei Xiaoheng searched for me for more than an hour at the subway station. Like a madman, he ran back and forth between every platform, shouting my name, nearly causing the security guards to call the police. How he got back, I don't know. I don't want to know either. The next morning, I went to the company for work. Just as I reached the entrance, I saw Pei Xiaoheng standing downstairs. He had changed into a clean set of clothes, his hair neatly combed, and he was holding a large bouquet of red roses in his hands, no less than 99 roses. When he saw me, he immediately forced a smile and walked over to greet me, saying, Ning Ning, good morning. I bought you flowers, your favorite red roses. I looked at the bouquet and said, Pei Xiaoheng, I don't like red roses. The one who likes red roses is Zhou Ruoxi. Pei Xiaoheng's expression stiffened for a moment. Then he awkwardly said, then I'll buy something else next time. What do you like? I want you to stay farther away from me. I walked past him and into the company's gate. Pei Xiaoheng wanted to follow in but was stopped by the front desk. The receptionist said in English, Sir, this is a private office area. You cannot enter without an appointment. Pei Xiaoheng stomped his foot in frustration and said, I came to find my wife. Tang Ning is my wife. The receptionist glanced at him again, then at me. Looking conflicted, I told the receptionist, he's not my husband. We are already divorced. Please have him leave. The receptionist immediately stiffened her face and said to Pei Xiaoheng, Sir, Please leave, or I will call security. Pei Xiaoheng's face turned flushed red. He gritted his teeth, slammed the bouquet onto the ground, and turned to leave. I thought he would back down in the face of difficulty, but I was wrong. Pei Xiaoheng, this person's biggest trait is that his skin is thick. The next day, he came again. This time he didn't bring flowers. He brought a branded bag, a limited edition Hermes bag, not less than 200,000 yuan. He stood at the entrance of the company, holding the bag up, shouting at me, "Ning Ning, I bought you a bag, your favorite Hermes." I didn't even bother to look at him, and walked straight into the company. On the third day, he changed his tactic again. This time he didn't enter the company. Instead, he sat in the cafe across from the company. As soon as I stepped out, he followed, like an inescapable tail, wherever I went. He followed. I went into the supermarket, and he followed. I stood in front of the shelves choosing things, and he stood not far away, watching me with a look as melancholic as a dog abandoned by its owner. When I was paying, he rushed over and insisted on paying. The cashier looked at him, then at me, looking baffled. I stuffed the money to the cashier and walked away with the bag in hand. Pei Xiaoheng chased after me and shouted loudly at the supermarket entrance, "Ning Ning, what do you want me to do for you to forgive me?" The passers-by around stopped and pulled out their phones to record videos. I turned around and looked at him, and said, "Pei Xiaoheng, you want me to forgive you, right? Fine, I'll ask you a few questions. When did you get together with Zhou Ruoshi?" Pei Xiaoheng was stunned for a moment and said, we, tell the truth." Pei Xiaoheng lowered his head, his voice so soft it sounded like a mosquito. 2 years. 2 years ago. 2 years, in other words, in the first year of our marriage. He got involved with Zhou Ruoshi. I held back the anger inside and asked again, "When you were with her, did you ever think of me?" Pei Xiaoheng remained silent. "Have you ever thought about it? Every day when you tell me that the company is outsourcing overtime, I wait for you at home until midnight. I cook and wait for you to come home to eat. It gets cold and hot, hot and cold, and finally ends up poured into the trash. Have you ever thought about it?" Pei Xiaoheng's eyes reddened. "Ning Ning, I know I let you down. I really know I'm in the wrong." "Do you know you're wrong?" I sneered. "You know you're wrong, so you came to France to find me." "Pei Xiaoheng, you don't know you're wrong. You were cuckolded by Zhou Ruoshi, your heart unbalanced, coming to me to fill the gap. Is that right?" Pei Xiaoheng suddenly looked up, his eyes wide open, his lips were trembling. He wanted to say something, but not a single word could be spoken, because I was right. He came to find me because the child in Zhou Ruoshi's belly was not his. His ego was hurt. He felt humiliated, so he came to me. He needed someone to prove that someone still wanted him, and I happened to be the most suitable candidate, because I'm his ex-wife. He thinks that as long as he turns back, I will gratefully rush to him. I smiled, a cold smile. "Pei Xiaoheng, listen carefully. Tanjing, in this lifetime, even if I marry a dog, I will never marry you again. Get that into your head and give up." After I finished speaking, I turned and walked away. What Pei Xiaoheng shouted behind me, I didn't hear clearly, and I didn't want to hear. In the next few days, Pei Xiaoheng seemed to have disappeared. He didn't come to the company to block me anymore. I thought he had given up and gone back to China, but I didn't expect it. He'd switched to an even more disgusting method. That night after I got off work and returned home, I had just reached the apartment entrance when I saw Pei Xiaoheng standing at the stairwell. Several suitcases were piled beside him, suggesting he planned to stay for a long time. When he saw me, a self-assured smile appeared on his face, and he said, "Ning Ning, I rented a place upstairs from you. From today, we're neighbors." I can hardly believe my ears. Did he rent a room upstairs for me? Is this person crazy? Pei Xiaoheng, are you sick? Did you lose your company? Is your mother no longer taking care of you? Are you going to stay in France like this and not leave? Pei Xiaoheng said, "There is a deputy general manager watching over the company's affairs, and my mother's body is already fine. The most important thing for me now is to win you back." When he said this, his eyes fixed on me, and his expression was so serious it didn't seem like a joke. I suddenly felt a little sick, not physical nausea, but psychological. How could a person be so shameless? He was the one who cheated, the one who divorced, and now he's the one who's clinging on relentlessly. Does he think the world revolves around him? I ignored him, went upstairs to my own room, and bolted the door. The voice of P. Xiaoheng came from outside the door. Ning Ning, I'll treat you to breakfast tomorrow morning. I'll make your favorite fried eggs. I put on my headphones, turned the volume up to the maximum, and blocked out all his movements and sounds. That night, I tossed and turned and couldn't sleep, not because of him. It's because I was thinking about how to completely get rid of this dog plaster patch. I thought of a person. That person is someone I met in France. His name is Li Chengyuan. Li Chengyuan is the president of a multinational corporation and very influential in the French business world. About a month ago, I met him at a company cocktail party. He started a conversation with me and gave me a business card. I didn't take it seriously at the time, thinking it was just ordinary socializing, but now, I think perhaps I could ask him for help. After all, dealing with someone like Pei Xiaoheng, alone I'm not enough. I need someone who can keep him in check, and Li Chengyuan happened to be that kind of person. The next morning, I pulled out that business card and dialed the number on it. The phone rang 3 times and someone picked up. A deep, pleasant male voice came through. Tang Ning. I blinked, stunned that he actually saved my number. Mr. Li, I want to ask you for a favor. Go ahead. A person has been harassing me, my ex-husband. He tracked me from my country to France, and now he's living upstairs in my building. I need you to help me. I paused, and said, help me make him back down. There was a 2-second silence on the other end of the line. Then Li Chengyuan said a sentence that made my heart miss a beat. Tang Ning, do you know, I've waited for this call, waited for a month. Chapter 5, A French Encounter. Li Chengyuan said he's been waiting for my call for a month. That sentence left me dazed for several seconds. What does it mean? Is he waiting for me to take the initiative and contact him? I want to ask him, but I feel awkward. After all, I've only met him once. We're not that close. Li Chengyuan seemed to sense my hesitation, smiled, and said, don't overthink it. We'll talk when we meet. Where do you live? I'll come pick you up. I told him the address, and he said he'd arrive in 40 minutes. After hanging up, I looked at myself in the mirror. My face looked a bit exhausted. I didn't sleep well last night, and the dark circles were showing. I put on light makeup, changed into a clean white shirt and jeans, and looked a bit more spirited. 40 minutes later, car horns came from downstairs. I drew open the curtains and saw a black Maybach parked downstairs. Li Chengyuan leaned against the car door, wearing a dark gray suit jacket with a black turtleneck underneath. The whole person looked cold and expensive. He looked up just as our eyes met, and his lips curved slightly into a smile as he waved at me. I happened to run into Pei Xiaoheng coming back from outside. When I went downstairs, he was carrying a bag of breakfast in his hand. Seeing that I had put on makeup and changed clothes, his eyes lit up and he said, Ning Ning, are you going out? I bought breakfast for you. You should eat something before you go. No need. I have an appointment. Pei Xiaoheng's expression changed. He asked, with whom? I paid him no mind and walked past him. Pei Xiaoheng caught up, grabbing my arm and asking, who did you make an appointment with? A man or a woman? I shook off his hand and said, Pei Xiaoheng, do you have a say in this? We're already divorced. It's none of your business who I meet. Pei Xiaoheng's face darkened. He was about to say something when he suddenly spotted the Maybach downstairs and Li Chengyuan. His whole body slackened. Li Chengyuan frowned slightly upon seeing me being pulled and tugged by Pei Xiaoheng, and straight over he came to my side, naturally placing a hand on my shoulder, and looked at Pei Xiaoheng in a calm tone. Sir, please stay farther away from Tang Ning. Pei Xiaoheng sized up Li Chengyuan, his eyes flickering as he noticed the obviously expensive suit and the Maybach. His expression changing several times, he asked, who are you? Li Chengyuan said, I am Tang Ning's friend. Pei Xiaoheng sneered, friend, boyfriend, perhaps. Tang Ning, you're really something. After a divorce, you found another man, and you did it fast. I was about to object, but Li Chengyuan spoke first. Pei Xiaoheng, right, chairman of the Pei Group, started with an acquisition 3 years ago. Last year, net profit was less than 200 million, debt ratio over 70%. I know your company's bad debts better than you do. Pei Xiaoheng's face turned completely pale. He didn't know who Li Chengyuan was, but from just these few sentences he could tell that this person's backing was not small. Li Chengyuan continued, Mr. Pei, I'll say this again, Tang Ning is now my friend, and if you harass her again, I wouldn't mind making the Pei Corporation's stock drop by another 30%. Pei Xiaoheng opened his mouth but couldn't utter a single word. Li Chengyuan withdrew his hand from my shoulder, gave me a polite gesture, and said, let's go. I followed him into the car, and the moment the door closed, I saw Pei Xiaoheng standing on the steps, the bag of breakfast he held dropping to the ground. He must be thinking to himself, when did Tang Ning get to know such a powerful figure in the car? Li Chengyuan started the engine and glanced at me sideways and said, "Is he your ex-husband?" Quite annoying, Li Chengyuan said. I forced a smile. Isn't that the truth? Li Chengyuan did not say anything else, drove the car and took me for a ride around the streets of Paris, finally stopping in front of a high-end restaurant. The restaurant was very quiet, with only a few tables of guests, dim lights, and candles and fresh flowers on the table. A waiter led us to a window-side seat and handed us the menu. Li Chengyuan asked me, "What would you like to eat?" "Whatever you want, you pick." Li Chengyuan ordered a few dishes, all classics from French cuisine, snails, foie gras, and steak, and he opened a bottle of red wine. During the intervals between courses, he raised his wine glass and looked at me and said, "Danning, do you know why I waited for your call?" I shook my head. "A month ago at the wine party, you left a deep impression on me." I looked back on that party for a moment. I wore a very ordinary black dress, my hair casually tied into a ponytail, no makeup. Among so many exquisitely dressed women present, I must have looked the most inconspicuous. "You spoke a piece at the party to Pierre," Li Chengyuan said, "about the tariff issues in Sino-French trade. You were very clear, your logic was tight." Even Pierre, who has been in trade for more than 20 years, nodded repeatedly. I was standing nearby at the time, listening intently. He paused and said, "A woman who is divorced, coming to France to make her fortune on her own, being able to stay so clear-headed and confident in such a setting is not simple." I felt a little embarrassed by his words, lifted the wine glass, and took a sip. "So you're waiting for me to come find you?" I asked. Li Chengyuan smiled and said, "I was planning to take the initiative to find you, but I was afraid you'd think I had ulterior motives. Now that you've come to ask for my help, I can hardly ask for more." When he spoke, his eyes were very serious, not like he was joking. My heart quickened by 2 beats, and I quickly changed the subject. "So, how do you plan to help me deal with Pei Xiaoheng?" Li Chengyuan leaned back in his chair, fingers softly tapping the desk, thought for a moment, and said, "There are 2 ways. First, I go talk to him and make him back off in defeat. Second, you let me be your boyfriend, and he'll back off naturally." I almost choked on my wine. "What did you say?" Li Chengyuan's expression was very calm, as if he were talking about something very ordinary. I said the second way, "You let me be your boyfriend." I stared at him for 3 seconds, hoping to find a trace of humor on his expressionless face, but I couldn't. He was serious. "Mr. Li, we've only met a second time. 2 faces are enough," Li Chengyuan said. "Some people can look at 100 faces and feel nothing. Some people see 1 face and can't forget it. You belong to the latter, I admit." That sentence did stir something in my heart, not because he is wealthy or powerful, but because when he said it, his eyes were pure, not like flowery talk. But I had just gotten divorced, and I didn't want to jump into another relationship so quickly. I was about to decline politely when Li Chengyuan spoke again. "Tang Ning, I'm not asking you to truly date me. I'm saying that while I help you deal with this Pei Xiaoheng matter, you can publicly claim that I'm your boyfriend. That way, Pei Xiaoheng won't bother you anymore. Once the matter is settled, you can continue if you want to, or end it if you don't. I'll respect your choice." He spoke very earnestly, leaving me with no way to refuse. I thought for a moment and said, "Well, then let's start with that for now." Li Chengyuan smiled. His smile was very handsome. He raised his glass and clinked it with mine, saying, "Happy cooperation." I also smiled. Happy cooperation. That night, when Li Chengyuan saw me home, Pei Xiaoheng was standing downstairs. He saw me come down from the Maybach. "Saw Li Chengyuan get out of the car to open the door for me. Saw Li Chengyuan gently kiss my forehead and say, "Good night." Pei Xiaoheng's face turned as ugly as if he had eaten a fly. As I walked past him, he grabbed my wrist with a shaking voice. "Tang Ning, what exactly is your relationship with that man?" I looked at him and spoke word by word. "He is my boyfriend." Pei Xiaoheng's face twisted. He released my wrist, stepped back 2 steps, as if punched, then he turned and walked away, his steps faltering, nearly stumbling on the steps. I watched his back, and there was not a trace of shame in my heart. "Pei Xiaoheng, you think only you can find a mistress. I, Tang Ning, can also find a man who is 10,000 times stronger than you." Chapter 6, Ex-Husband Kneels and Pleads. Since the night I told Pei Xiaoheng that Li Chengyuan was my boyfriend, Pei Xiaoheng seemed to be stimulated somehow and has become even more crazy. He no longer greets me with a smiling face every day as before. Instead, He behaves like a trapped beast, pacing in his cage, eyes full of bloodshot lines. He started following me, not the secretive kind of stalking, but the brazen, in-your-face kind. I go to work, and he sits in the cafe across from the company. I finish work, and he trails behind, not too far, not too close, keeping a distance of about a dozen steps. I go to the supermarket, and he follows to the supermarket. I go to the park for a stroll, and he follows to the park. He didn't speak, just followed. Behind, like an inescapable shadow, I went to find Li Changyuan. He said he would handle it and to endure a little longer, but I didn't wait for Li Changyuan's handling. Instead, I was met with something I didn't expect. That day was Saturday, the sun was bright, and I was sitting in the small garden downstairs in the apartment building reading a book. Pei Xiaoheng came down from the upstairs, wearing a wrinkled shirt, with an unshaven beard, looking so haggard that it was hard to believe. He walked up to me, and with a thud he knelt down. There were other people walking in the garden, and upon seeing this scene, everyone stopped in their tracks. A French old lady cried out, "Oh my God!" Pei Xiaoheng knelt in front of me, head lowered, shoulders trembling. "Ning Ning, I beg you, remarry me." His voice was not loud, but the garden was quiet, and everyone could hear clearly. I closed the book, looked at Pei Xiaoheng kneeling on the ground, and said, "Pei Xiaoheng, get up, don't make a spectacle of yourself here." Pei Xiaoheng didn't get up. He raised his head, eyes full of tears, and said, "Ning Ning, I know I don't deserve to ask for your forgiveness, but I really know I was wrong. What happened with Zhou Ruoxi is my fault. I shouldn't have betrayed you. You can hit me or scold me. I only ask you to give me one chance." More and more people gathered, and the bystanders' appetite for drama was no less than in the country. Someone was filming with phones, while others whispered in disgust. Pei Xiaoheng knelt and moved forward 2 steps, grabbing the hem of my pants. His voice choked with sobs. "Ning Ning, do you remember the day we got married? You said you were willing to marry me and never regret it for a lifetime. I want to tell you now that I'm willing to spend a lifetime making it up to you, just asking you to give me this chance." I looked at his pathetic appearance, and there was no emotion in my heart, only nausea. Does he think kneeling can erase everything? Does he think a few cries will soften my heart? I stood up, and Pei Xiaoheng's hand slid off my pant leg. I looked down at him from a high vantage point and said, "Pei Xiaoheng, you say you're willing to spend your whole life making up to me, so I'll ask you, how do you plan to make it up to me?" Pei Xiaoheng was taken aback for a moment, then hurriedly said, "I'm willing to do anything. Whatever you say I'll agree to." "Good, then first transfer half of the Pei Group's shares to me. How about that?" Pei Xiaoheng's face went pale. Pei Group has been his lifelong effort. Owning half the shares would mean billions. He opened his mouth, saying, "Ning Ning, this, about the shares can be negotiated, but half is too much." I sneered. "Look, you're not even willing to part with the shares. What do you have to compensate me with? Your tears, your knees." The people around began to whisper. Pei Xiaoheng's face kept turning red and pale, his lips trembling, wanting to say something but unable to utter it. I continued, "Pei Xiaoheng, you say you know you were wrong. Where did you go wrong? Was it being with Zhou Ruoxi, or letting her become pregnant?" "Neither. Your mistake is that you think I, Tang Ning, am a fool, and I will wait stupidly for you to finish playing outside and come back to look for me." Pei Xiaoheng knelt on the ground, tears streaming down his cheeks. "Ning Ning, I really, enough," I interrupted him. "I don't need your amends, nor your chance. I'm living very well now. 1,000,000 times better than when I was with you. I have a job, friends, and a boyfriend who is 1,000,000 times better than you. What makes you think I would give all this up to remarry a cheating scum like you?" The last sentence I spoke weighed heavily, every word stabbing into Pei Xiaoheng's heart like a knife. His body trembled and he nearly fell to the ground. The old French lady beside us could not stand it any longer. She came over and, with broken English, said to me, "Miss, this man looks in a lot of pain. Are you sure you don't want to forgive him?" I looked at the old lady, smiled, and said, "Madam, do you know why he's suffering? It's not because he loves me, but because the child he fathered with his mistress isn't his. He wore a green hat, his pride was crushed, and that's why he came to me to fill the gap." After hearing this, the old lady's mouth opened wide, and the look in her eyes toward Pei Xiaoheng changed from sympathy to contempt. The surrounding French people understood the sentence, and their expressions changed. Some even started to hiss. Pei Xiaoheng knelt on the ground, trembling all over. He looked up at me, his eyes filled with anger, humiliation, and unwillingness. "Tang Ning, do you have to humiliate me like this?" "Humiliate you? Pei Xiaoheng, I'm just speaking the truth. You think bowing down can fix everything. You think tears can soften my heart. You're too naive. I picked up my bag and turned to leave. Pei Xiaoheng called from behind. Tang Ning, stop. I didn't stop, he shouted again, his voice choked with tears. Don't you have any feelings for me at all? 3 years of marriage. How can you be so cruel? I stopped, turned my head, and looked at him. Pei Xiaoheng, how can I be so brutal after 3 years of marriage? Then let me ask you, you've been with Zhou Ruoxi for 2 years. Why don't you think of me, the wife, how I feel, when you accompanied her to her prenatal checkups? Why didn't you think of how cruel that was? Pei Xiaoheng fell silent. Leave, don't stay in France, you're not welcome here. I turned away from the garden. Behind me came Pei Xiaoheng's cries, like a wounded beast howling. I did not look back. That night, Li Chengyuan came. He walked into my apartment, holding a stack of documents. With a faint smile on his face, he placed the documents on the desk and said, Tu Ning, you need to take a look at this. I opened the file and froze. It was a detailed investigative report about the Pei Group, about Zhou Ruoxi, and about my biological father. Li Chengyuan sat opposite me, hands folded on the table, and said, Tang Ning, do you know who your biological father is? I shake my head. I grew up with my mother since childhood. My mother never mentioned my father, only saying that he passed away long ago. Later, my mother also left, and I became an orphan. My eldest uncle took me to the Tang family to raise for a few years, but he also never told me about my father. Li Chengyuan turned to a page in the document, pointed to the words on it, and said, Tang Ning, your biological father is Tang Jinghua. He is the founder of Tang Group Enterprises. I was stunned. Tang Jinghua, Tang Family Enterprise, isn't that the company managed by your eldest uncle, Tang Jinghua? Is he my dad? I asked. Li Chengyuan nodded. Your father kicked your mother out of the family for certain reasons back then, but your mother was already pregnant with you when she left. Your father didn't know you existed, and he didn't know until he passed away. Later, the Tang family enterprise was taken over by your eldest uncle, Tang Jinbang, the one who raised you, but your eldest uncle never told you that you are the true heir to the Tang family enterprise. My hands are shaking. Since I was little, I believed I was an unwanted orphan living under someone else's roof at my uncle's house, but now Li Chengyuan told me that I am the rightful owner of Tang's enterprise. I stare at that document, reading it word by word, white on black, crystal clear. Tang Jinghua's will states, all property shall be inherited by the eldest daughter, Tang Ning, because I am Tang Jinghua's only child. Uncle Tang Jinbang is only a trustee, not an heir. All these years, Uncle has been hiding things from me, monopolizing my inheritance, making me live like a guest in someone else's home. He drove my mother away, seized my father's company, and made me work like a horse for him. I clenched the documents in my hand, nails sinking into the paper. Li Chengyuan said, Tang Ning, this document took people a month to track down. Do you want to take back what belongs to you? I raised my head and looked into Li Chengyuan's eyes. There was a glint in his eyes, like a hunter gazing at prey, and also like a knight gazing at a princess. Yes, Li Chengyuan smiled. He stretched out his hand and said, then I'll go with you. I held his hand and nodded firmly. Pei Xiaoheng, Zhou Ruoxi, Tang Jinbang, none of the people who owe me will get away. Chapter 7, Exposure of Identity. That night, Li Chengyuan stayed in my apartment until very late. He told me in detail the ins and outs of the Tang family business. Originally, Tang Jinghua started from scratch, began with a hardware store, and took 20 years to develop the Tang Group into a comprehensive conglomerate spanning real estate, hotels, and retail. His wife, which is my mother, named Lin Shiji, is an ordinary female worker at a textile factory. Tang Jinghua's parents look down on Lin Shiji, thinking she is not worthy of the Tang family, and have been stirring up trouble in the middle. Tang Jinghua was ultimately left with no choice but to drive the pregnant Lin Shiji out of the house. He did not know that Lin Shiji was already pregnant when Lin Shiji left. She did not mention that she was pregnant. She is a stubborn woman and does not want to use the child to coerce the Tang family, and so I was born into a single-parent family, living with my mother in a rented flat in a town village, barely making ends meet. When I was 8, my mother fell ill and passed away, and she was sent to my great-uncle Tang Jinbang's home. Tang Jinbang told everyone that Tang Ning was the foster daughter of his brother, adopted, with no blood relation to the Tang family, so the Tang family all considered me an outsider. They have never linked the Tang family's business to me at any time, but now I know. I am the only bloodline of Tang Jinghua. The Tang family enterprises are originally mine. I asked Li Chengyuan, How sure are you? Li Chengyuan said. 100%, Tang Jingguo's will has been notarized and archived at the notary office. My men have already obtained a copy and can file a lawsuit at any time. I asked again, does your old uncle know about this? Not yet, Li Chengyuan said, but he will know very soon, because I will make sure this matter is disclosed in a place where everyone can see it. When he said this, a trace of an inscrutable smile curved his lips. 3 days later, Li Chengyuan achieved it. He contacted the largest financial and entertainment media in the country and released this explosive news on the same day. The headline was written in a very sensational way. The news detailed the contents of Tang Jingguo's will, as well as the whole process of how Tang Jinbang concealed the truth and seized the family fortune back then. The news also included photos of me and my mother from that time. For a while, the entire internet exploded. Among the top 10 trending topics on Weibo, 6 are related to this matter. Tang family enterprise heir, who is Tang Ning. Tang Jinbang seizes the inheritance. Pei Xiaoheng's ex-wife is actually an heiress of a wealthy family. French President Li Chengyuan and Deng Ning's relationship. The topics pile up and spread far and wide. Within a few hours the readership surpasses 1 billion. The comment section is even more lively. Oh my god, this plot is more melodramatic than a TV drama. Tang Jinbang is so shameless, occupying his niece's inheritance and making her live under others' roofs. Is Pei Xiaoheng stupid, leaving a real rich heiress to chase after a mistress? Support Tang Ning to go all the way. Take back what's rightfully hers. Tang Ning is so pitiful. Her mother was driven away, her father's fortune was seized, her husband cheated, and now she's finally turning her life around. Some people questioned, is Ning Dang possibly fake? Could it be a staged incident for attention? But this voice was soon overwhelmed by an avalanche of evidence. Li Chengyuan acts with meticulousness. Not only did he obtain the will notarization, he also found the lawyer who did the notarization at the time, as well as Tang Jingguo's private assistant from before. All of these people appeared publicly to testify to the media, confirming that Ning is Tang Jingguo's only daughter. For a moment, Tang Jinbang became a streetwide mouse, everyone calling for him to be beaten. Reporters swarmed the old Tang family mansion, and as soon as he stepped out, he was blocked and pursued with questions. At first, Tang Jinbang persisted in his stance, saying that Tang Ning was not Tang Jingguo's biological daughter, and that those documents were all forged. But before he could finish speaking, Li Chengyuan dropped another heavy bomb. A paternity test report, DNA comparison results of Tang Ning and Tang Jingguo, 99.99% similarity, confirmed as a parent-child relationship. This report was conducted by Li Chengyuan, who, through connections, extracted DNA from a blood sample Tang Jingguo left at the hospital that year. Tang Jingguo underwent annual physical examinations before his death, and the hospital kept his blood samples. With this report, the ironclad evidence is undeniable, and Tang Jinbang can no longer argue. His face was swollen from being beaten. Friends in the country who saw the news began to message me one after another. Lin Xiao gasped in a string of exclamations. Tang Ning, you actually are the heir of the Tang family business. Oh my god, I can't believe there's an heiress of a noble family hidden right by me. I replied to her, I just found out too. Lin Xiao said, just you wait, I'll go attach myself to your thigh tomorrow. I laughed. There are also some people I used to know in Tongjia who contacted me through various channels. In the past they were indifferent toward me, but now they all put on a different face, calling me Ning Ning's sister one after another, so enthusiastic that it gave me goosebumps. I ignored them. The most exciting part is still to come. After hearing the news, Pei Xiaoheng went completely crazy. In his Paris apartment, he smashed everything he could smash: cups, plates, vases, televisions, all of them shattered. He saw on the news that Tang Ning was the heir to Tang's enterprise, and Tang's enterprise now had a market value of at least more than 10 billion, when he married Tang Ning originally. He thought she was just an orphan adopted by the Tang family, with no value or use at all, so he dared to commit infidelity without restraint, and he dared to let Zhou Ruoxi move into the house openly. But now he knows that Tang Ning is not an adopted daughter. She is Tang Jingguo's biological daughter and the legal heir to 100 billion yuan fortune. If he hadn't cheated and hadn't divorced back then, he could have at least taken half of that fortune, billions, because he couldn't control his lower body. Everything was lost. Pei Xiaoheng, after smashing things, collapsed to the ground, curling up and crying. He called me, and I hung up. He called again, and I hung up again. He made more than 30 calls, and I didn't answer a single one. In the end he sent me a text message, only a few words. Ning Ning, please give me another chance. I'm willing to give you the entire pay group. I looked at this text message and laughed. Back then, he wouldn't part with even half of the shares. Now he's willing to give me everything, because once he found out, what I have in my hands is 100 times more valuable than that shabby company of his. This person is truly ridiculous and pathetic. I didn't reply to him. I threw the phone aside, leaned back on the sofa, and closed my eyes. A week ago, I was still a divorced woman with no support, being hounded to death by my ex-husband in France. 1 week from today, I will be the heir to 100 billion in assets, and the whole internet is buzzing about my name. The changes in life can be so dramatic sometimes. Lee Chang-yuan called, and his voice sounded cheerful. Did you see the news? I've seen it. Thank you. Don't thank me, he said. This is what you deserve. By the way, I have one more piece of news to tell you. What news? S. lawyer contacted me and said he wants to talk to you about a settlement. Your great-uncle is willing to transfer 40% of the Tang family's business shares to you, on the condition that you do not pursue his criminal liability. I sneered. 40%. He's dreaming. I want it all. Lee Chang-yuan smiled. I knew you'd say that. Don't worry, I'll fight for you to the end. After hanging up, I walked to the window and watched the distant Eiffel Tower flicker with golden light in the night. The image of Pei Xiaoheng kneeling before me was still fresh in my mind, but I no longer cared, because from today, my world would no longer be within his reach. Chapter 8, Joint Counterattack. The news that Tang Ming is the heir to the Tang family enterprise caused a sensation at home, but the real drama has only just begun. Lee Chang-yuan is very efficient. The day after the news broke, his legal team flew from Paris to the country and directly filed an inheritance lawsuit with the court. The only lawsuit claim, Tang Jinbang has no right to inherit the Tang family enterprise. All assets belong to Tang Ming. Tang Jinbang panicked. He hired several lawyers, consulted a large circle, and the answers were the same. He has no chance of winning this lawsuit, because Tang's will was notarized, clearly stating that Tang Ming is the sole heir. Add to that the DNA paternity test report. The evidence chain is complete to the utmost. Tang Jinbang's best outcome is to voluntarily relinquish his shares, seek Tang Ming's understanding, and avoid criminal liability. Although Tang Jinbang is greedy, he is not stupid. He knows that continuing to endure will only lead to a worse death, so he had someone relay a message saying he is willing to talk. Lee Chang-yuan asked me, "How do you want to negotiate?" "I want everything," Lee Chang-yuan said. "All right, then I'll have someone handle the negotiations." The negotiations took place in Paris, France. Tang Jinbang dispatched his eldest son Tang Mingyuan to come, who is also my cousin. Tang Mingyuan is 5 years older than me. When we were at the Tang family home as children, he wasn't good to me nor bad to me. He just treated me as a transparent person, neither cold nor hot. The day Tang Mingyuan arrived in Paris, I asked Lee Chang-yuan to accompany me to meet him. The meeting place is a business conference room in a high-end hotel. Tang Mingyuan wore a designer suit, his hair slicked back to shine, but his facial expression looked strained, and his smile was uglier than crying. When he saw me, he called out, "Ningning sister." I didn't respond to him and sat down at one side of the conference table. Lee Chang-yuan sat next to me, with 2 lawyers trailing behind. Tang Mingyuan looked at the scene and his face grew paler. He cleared his throat and said, "Ningning sister, my dad asked me to come talk to you. He said he's willing to transfer 51% of the Tang Group's stake to you, and the remaining 49% will be held by other members of our Tang family. That way everyone has something to live on. What do you think?" I looked at him and said, 51%, Tang Mingyuan, your dad has occupied my family's assets for more than 20 years, and now he's only willing to give me back half. Does he think I'm easy to bully? Tang Mingyuan's expression stiffened. "Ningning sister, you can't say things like that. For more than 20 years, the Tang Group has been managed by my dad. He turned the company from small to large. There's hard work even if there's no meritorious service, right? If you take everything away like this, isn't that a bit unreasonable?" I laughed. "Courtesy, in my father's will, it was clearly stated that I would inherit the company. Not only did your father not tell me the truth, he also had me slave away at the Tang family, at your beck and call. What courtesy am I talking about with you now?" Tang Mingyuan was unable to speak. Lee Chang-yuan spoke at this moment, his tone very calm, but every word carried an oppressive force. "Mr. Tang, I give you 2 choices. First, Tang Jinbang voluntarily relinquishes all shares. Tang Ming can choose not to prosecute him for embezzling the inheritance, and no criminal responsibility will be pursued against him. Second, the court rules Tang Ming victorious, Tang Jinbang must not only surrender all shares but also bear criminal charges, at least 3 to 5 years, you choose for yourselves. Tang Ming Yuan's face flushed red, he gritted his teeth and said, I'll go back and discuss it with my dad. He stood up, picked up his briefcase, and walked away. After taking 2 steps, he turned back and looked at him. Watching you really be so ruthless. It's not that I want to be ruthless, you owe me what you should repay, Tang Ming Yuan said no more and slammed the door on his way out. 3 days later, Tang Jinbang softened. He agreed to hand over all shares on the condition that Tang Ming would not sue him. Lai Qingjuan's lawyer drafted the agreement, and Tang Jinbang signed it during a video call, his face pale as if someone had ripped at his heart. From that moment, the Tang family business officially belonged to me, hundreds of billions in assets, all under my name. After the news broke, another round of trending topics followed. Tang Ming officially becomes the heir of Tang Family Enterprises. Tang Jinbang leaves with nothing but his name. Nording's worth over 10 billion. I sat in my Paris apartment, scrolling through the wall-to-wall news on my phone, and suddenly felt like all of this was a dream. 3 months ago, I was a woman abandoned by my husband, left with nothing, moving to France with only a suitcase. 3 months later, I became a billionaire heiress, the center of attention across the entire internet. I asked Li Qingyuan, did you know all along? Li Qingyuan held a wine glass, leaned on the sofa, and said, do you know what? Know that I am the heir to Tang's enterprise. Li Qingyuan was silent for 2 seconds, then said, I didn't know when I first met you. Later I had people look into your background, and I found out about this. So when I said I waited for your call for a month, it wasn't because I am patient, it's because I knew you would need me sooner or later. He spoke very frankly, not disguising his scheming at all. I looked at his handsome face, and suddenly felt that this person was quite interesting. He wasn't like Pei Xiaoheng, full of lies, one face on the surface and another behind his back. He lays everything out in the open, telling you what he is doing and what he wants. People like this, on the contrary, are more reassuring. Aren't you afraid I know you're using me? Li Qingyuan laughed. Using? Tang Ming, we need each other. You need someone to help you take back what belongs to you. I need a partner to develop the domestic market. We have a common goal. This isn't use, this is cooperation. He put down the wine glass, looked at me seriously, and said, moreover, I won't deny that I have a favorable impression of you. This liking is real, not pretended. The atmosphere suddenly became somewhat ambiguous. I picked up the wine glass, took a sip, and shifted the topic. Next, we should deal with Pei Xiaoheng. Li Qingyuan said, how do you want to deal with him? I thought for a moment, and said, the Pei Group has recently been involved in a real estate project in the south, a large-scale investment that has used up most of Pei Xiaoheng's funds. If that project goes wrong, the Pei Group's capital chain will break, and then we can acquire it at a low price. Li Qingyuan raised an eyebrow and said, do you understand business? Don't forget, I studied finance in university. It's just that after marriage, Pei Xiaoheng wouldn't let me go to work, and I kept it in for 3 years. Now I can finally put it to use. Li Qingyuan laughed, a very happy laugh. Tang Ming, I'm beginning to think collaborating with you is a very interesting thing. I laughed too. That night, Qingyuan Li and I together devised a detailed plan. Step 1. Through Li Qingyuan's overseas channels, intercept the key supplier for Pei Xiaoheng's project in the south. Step 2. Cut off the supplier's supplies, causing the project to halt, with Pei Xiaoheng in breach of contract and paying a huge liquidated damages. Step 3. When Pei Group's stock price plummets, quietly acquire Pei Group's shares through multiple accounts. Step 4. When Pei Xiaoheng's capital chain breaks and he is forced to sell his shares, seize the controlling stake of the Pei Group in one fell swoop. This plan is vicious. If successful, Pei Xiaoheng's decades of hard work will become mine. Li Qingyuan looked at the plan and said, this is harsher than taking away the Tang Company. The Tang Company was originally yours. Taking it back is a matter of course, but the Pei Group is something Pei Xiaoheng built with his own hands, and if you try to take it away, he might go crazy. He took away my 3 years of youth back then. I took away his company, fair and reasonable. Li Qingyuan looked at me, his eyes filled with admiration. Tang Ming, you've really changed. 3 months ago at the banquet you were still a cautious, reserved woman, careful in everything. Now your eyes shine with light. I looked at him and said, "Perhaps it's because I've got someone backing me." Lai Qingjuan paused for a moment, then laughed. That smile was brighter than the Eiffel Tower outside the window. Chapter 9. The mistress ends up. Pei Xiaoheng couldn't stay in France any longer. The news that Tang Ning has become the heir to the Tang family business is overwhelming. Every moment in Paris feels like a sentence being served to him when he went out to buy groceries. A Chinese shopkeeper recognized him, pointed at him, and shouted, "Are you the scumbag who cheated? You ditch 100 billion fortune to go with a mistress." When he went to a cafe, the waiter directly refused him entry, saying, "This store does not welcome Mr. Pei Heng." On the street, someone threw an egg at him. Pei Xiaoheng could no longer hold on and bought a ticket to fly back to the country. He wanted to go back to stabilize the Pei Group's situation, but he didn't know that a bigger storm was waiting for him the day he returned to his homeland. It happened to coincide with news of a supplier cutting off supply, that southern real estate project. Because a key materials supplier suddenly terminated the cooperation, the project halted across the board. The developer pressed Pei Xiaoheng to deliver the houses, otherwise the daily penalty would be 5 million. Pei Xiaoheng was busily panicking, frantically looking for new suppliers, but oddly, every manufacturer that could supply this material said they were out of stock. Not out of stock, but someone offered a higher price and bought up all the goods. That person was Li Chengyuan. Pei Xiaoheng didn't know who was pulling strings behind the scenes. He only knew he couldn't hold on much longer. A daily late fee of 5 million, 10 days is 15 million, a month is 150 million. The Pei Group's cash flow can't support even 3 months. He began to borrow money everywhere, but banks wouldn't lend, and private lending rates were too high for him to afford. During this period, the Pei Group stock began to fall. First it fell slightly, 2%, 3%, then it dropped more and more sharply, losing 20% in a week. There is mysterious capital heavily selling shares of the Pei Group. The market is panicking, and retail investors are selling off one after another. With the stock price plummeting, Pei Xiaoheng wants to stabilize the market, but he has no money. He sought out former partners to ask them to give him a hand, but each of them dodged, saying that fundraising is tight lately. It's not that funds are tight, it's that they sensed danger and didn't want to wade into this swamp. Pei Xiaoheng overnight went from being the exalted Mr. Pei to a mangy dog that everyone avoids, and at this moment, another person's days are also hard. Zhou Ruoshi, the woman who is pregnant with someone else's child and also let Pei Xiaoheng be the scapegoat after returning from France. Pei Xiaoheng's first action was to drive Zhou Ruoshi out of the Pei family's old residence. Zhou Ruoshi, 8 months pregnant, was carried out by security at the gate, with her luggage scattered all over the ground. Drawing countless onlookers, she cried out that the baby belonged to Pei Xiaoheng, that the hospital had mixed up the blood type, and that someone was definitely setting her up. He no longer believes it. He went for 3 more paternity tests, each at a different hospital and at different times. Each time the result was the same. No supporting evidence of a parental relationship. The child in Zhou Ruoshi's belly has nothing to do with Pei Xiaoheng. Pei Xiaoheng longed to strangle Zhou Ruoshi, but he did not strike, because he had more important matters to attend to keep the Pei Group afloat. After Zhou Ruoshi was driven out, she had nowhere to go. She returned to her hometown, where her in-laws deemed her a disgrace and would not let her enter. She looked for the real father of the child, but that man had long vanished. The phone number unreachable, and the address was fake. She was like a peppermint gum chewed by people, despised and discarded by everyone. Zhou Ruoshi, with no way out, went to the media with her pregnant belly to cry out her grievances. In front of the camera, she cried a sorrowful tear-streaked cry, accusing Pei Xiaoheng of abandoning her after an affair, saying he did not acknowledge his child, saying he owed her an apology. The media released this video, and the comments section is full of people swearing at her. "Aren't you the other woman? Do you still have the nerve to cry? You got pregnant with someone else's man and made Pei Xiaoheng take the blame. Now that it's exposed, you come here to play the victim. Serves you right. When you snatched someone else's husband, didn't you think about today? Support Tang Ning. Let these 2 trash humans not have a good death." Zhou Ruoshi looked at the comments and cried even harder. She wanted to plead for Tang Ning to contact me through a former classmate and call me. I was in my office in Paris, looking at the stock price chart of the Pei Group when the phone rang. "Sister Tang Ning, I'm Ruoshi." The cry-cried voice of Zhou Ruoshi came from the phone. I leaned back in the chair and asked, "What is it?" Zhou Ruoshi said, "Sister Tang Ning, I know I've wronged you. I shouldn't have been with Xiaoheng, but I'm truly out of options now. Can you help me? The baby in my belly is about to be born. I have no money, nowhere to live. Zhou Ruoshi. I interrupted her. Did you ever imagine there would be a day like this when you slept in my guest room, sleeping with my husband? Zhou Ruoshi cried even more sadly. Sister Tongning, I know I was wrong, I really know I was wrong. Please, for the sake of the child, help me. The child is innocent, I sneered coldly. The child is innocent. Then when you conceived him, why didn't you think about whether he was innocent or not, when you used him to pressure the palace? Why didn't you think about whether he was innocent or not? Now you use him as a shield. Zhou Ruoshi, you don't deserve to be a mother. Zhou Ruoshi couldn't say a word, only crying noises came from the phone. I won't help you, and don't come to me again. Your own path, you walk it yourself. I hung up the phone and blocked the number. It's not that I'm heartless, it's because Zhou Ruoshi was harsher to me back then. When she moved into my home, I cooked for her every day, kept her company, and treated her like a sister. She pretended to be carefree with me on the surface, but behind my back she was flirting with my husband. These kinds of people are not worth pity. 3 days later, Pei Xiaoheng's company could no longer hold on. Supply disruptions caused project defaults, banks withdrew loans, investors dumped shares, and bad news toppled one after another like dominoes. Pei Xiaoheng was forced to announce that the Pei Group would enter bankruptcy reorganization. When the news broke, the Pei Group's stock price fell to its historic low. At this moment, Li Qinyuan stepped in. He used multiple overseas accounts to acquire a large amount of the Pei Group's circulating shares at a very low price. Retail investors, seeing someone taking over, began to rush to sell the stocks they held. By the time Pei Xiaoheng reacted, Li Qinyuan already held 31% of Pei Group's shares, becoming the largest shareholder. Pei Xiaoheng only had 25%. He had lost control of Pei Group. At the shareholders' meeting, Li Qinyuan, as the largest shareholder, proposed to remove Pei Xiaoheng from the position of chairman. Pei Xiaoheng sat in the conference room, his face as pale as chalk. He looked at Li Qinyuan standing on the platform, looking at me behind him, and finally understood everything. It's you. Pei Xiaoheng suddenly stood up, pointing at Li Qinyuan, his voice trembling. It's you who caused all this behind the scenes. You cut the supplier, you shorted the stock, you took the shares too. Li Qinyuan smiled slightly and said, Mr. Pei, the business world is a battlefield. If you lose, you must admit it. Pei Xiaoheng's gaze turned to me, his eyes reddened. Tang Ning, you're the one who made him do this, right? Your revenge on me. You hate that I cheated, so you want to destroy my company. I stood up, walked to him, and said, Pei Xiaoheng, you're right. I am taking revenge on you, but you must understand, you betrayed me first. You betrayed my marriage, betrayed my trust, betrayed our 3 years of relationship. I am simply taking back what you owe me, with interest. Pei Xiaoheng's lips trembled. He wanted to say something, but no word could come out. I continued, Pei Xiaoheng, you may hate me, but the person you should hate most is yourself. You ruined your own career, your own family, your own life with your own hands. Tang Ning has nothing to do with it. After finishing speaking, I turned and walked out of the meeting room. Behind me, Pei Xiaoheng's heart-wrenching scream rang out, followed by a loud crash as a chair hit the floor. I did not look back. At the end of the hallway, Li Qinyuan leaned against the wall, waiting for me to walk over. How does it feel? Very good, he laughed. What next? Next, it's time to take care of our business. Li Qinyuan raised an eyebrow. Our business? I looked at him and said, did you forget? You said, once things are over, we can continue if we want to, or end it if we don't. I want to continue now. Li Qinyuan paused for a moment, then laughed like a child who had gotten candy. He held out his hand and took my hand. Chapter 10, Perfect Counterattack. The news of the Pei Group changing hands became the biggest headline of that period. From a CEO with tens of billions in assets, Pei Xiaoheng instantly became a failure in debt. His company was gone, his reputation ruined, his friends scattered, and even his own mother refused to live with him, deeming him a disgrace. Pei Xiaoheng tried to make a comeback, but no one was willing to work with him. His name had become a joke in the business world. Whoever got involved with him would be unlucky. He went to look for Zhou Ruoshi, hoping she would return the money and gifts he had given her originally. Zhou Ruoshi had long given birth to the child, a girl, who looked exactly like Zhou Ruoshi. She saw Pei Xiaoheng coming, grabbed the child, and ran, shouting as she ran, I have no money, go find someone else. Pei Xiaoheng chased after him, and the two individuals started dragging each other on the main street, the scene becoming extremely ugly for a while. In the end, the police arrived, pulled them apart, and took them to the police station. This incident was captured by the media again, with an especially vicious headline: Bankrupt CEO tears apart the mistress, fights on the street for money. Netizens' comments were even more vicious. It's just deserved. Weren't they blissfully in love before? This is the consequence of cheating. A scumbag with a cheap woman, lasting forever. Dawning is so awesome. This is true vengeance. Thumbs up for Dawning. Women should live like this. I looked at these comments and sent Lee Chang-yuan a screenshot. Lee Chang-yuan replied with a smiley, then said, "How have you been considering the wedding in a castle in France?" After I retrieved the Tang group, Lee Chang-yuan proposed to me. He didn't stage any romantic ceremony, nor did he go down on one knee and offer roses. He simply spoke to me very earnestly. "Tang Ning, I want to marry you, not because you are a billionaire princess, but because you are the most resilient woman I have ever met. You have been through so much, yet you were not crushed. You grew stronger and bolder. I want to spend the rest of my life with a woman like that." I said yes to him, because I realized that I had unknowingly fallen for this man. He is mature, steady, and responsible, completely different from Pei Xiaoheng. He would bring me late-night snacks when I work overtime, take me for a walk by the Seine when I'm in a bad mood, and quietly book a flight home when I say I miss home. He never speaks sweet nothings, but every action of his says, "I care about you." A man like this is worth entrusting. The wedding was held in a remote castle in the Loire Valley, France. It was a castle with 800 years of history, surrounded by vast vineyards and forests, as beautiful as a fairy tale scene. On the day of the wedding, the weather was unusually good, blue skies and white clouds, sunlight shining on the castle's stone walls, radiating a golden glow. I wore a white wedding dress with a 3-meter-long train, and I wore a small diamond crown on my head that was specially ordered by Lee Chang-yuan from a Paris jewelry workshop, encrusted with 99 shards of diamonds, symbolizing eternity. The makeup artist finished my makeup. Lin Xiao stood by my side as the bridesmaid, her eyes red. "Tang Ning, you're so beautiful. I'm really happy for you." I smiled and said, "Don't cry. The makeup will smudge." Lin Xiao sniffed and said, "I didn't cry. The wind-blown sand got in my eyes." I laughed. There were quite a few guests at the wedding. There are colleagues and friends of mine in France, shareholders and management of Tangsher Enterprises, and some business partners who have cooperated with me. Of course, there are people from the Tang family as well. Tang Jinbang didn't come. He didn't have the face to come, but Tang Mingyuan showed up, and he brought me a substantial gift. A portrait of Tang Jingui in his youth, said to be found in the old house. I looked at the portrait of that man who was strange yet familiar, and my eyes started to heat up. "Dad, did you see that? Your daughter is getting married today. She did not disappoint you." The wedding march began to play. The red carpet stretched from the entrance of the castle hall to the podium, lined with white flowers on both sides. I walked toward the ceremonial platform, arm-linked with Lin Xiao. Since there was no father to escort me, Lee Chang-yuan stood on the platform, dressed in a black suit, a white flower pinned to his chest. He looked at me as I approached, his eyes filled with a gentle, smiling warmth. I stood before him. He reached out his hand, and I took it. His hands are very warm, very dry, very strong. The priest, fluent in French, proclaimed the vows and asked Lee Chang-yuan, "Do you take Tang Ning as your wife, in poverty or wealth, in illness or in health, to love her, to honor her, to protect her, until death do you parts?" Lee Chang-yuan looked into my eyes and said, word for word, "I do." The priest turned to me. "Tang Ning, do you take Lee Chang-yuan as your husband, in poverty or wealth, in illness or health, to love him, to honor him, to protect him, until death do you part?" I looked at Lee Chang-yuan's face and recalled everything that had happened along the way, from running into Pei Xiaoheng at the hospital accompanying Zhou Ruoxi for a checkup, to traveling alone at the airport with a suitcase to France, from grinding through survival in a strange city, to Pei Xiaoheng kneeling in a Paris garden, crying and pleading for a remarriage, from discovering that I am the heir to Tangsher Enterprises, to joining forces with Lee Chang-yuan to bankrupt Pei Xiaoheng's company. All the grievances, unwillingness, pain, and struggle have, at this moment, condensed into 3 characters: I am willing. The applause thundered. Lee Chang-yuan bent down and gently kissed me. Outside the castle, someone set off fireworks. White, gold, and purple fireworks exploded in the blue sky, making the entire castle look dreamlike. After the wedding, I saw an unexpected person on the terrace of the ancient castle, Pei Xiaoheng. He somehow learned of the wedding location and flew in from abroad, standing outside the iron bars around the castle, watching from afar. He didn't break in, just stood there in an old coat, his hair blown by the wind into a mess, looking more worn than words could tell. When he saw that I noticed him, his lips moved as if he wanted to say something. I didn't walk over, just watched him from afar. Pei Xiaoheng opened his mouth a few times, and in the end he could only squeeze out 3 words, "Sorry." I did not answer. I turned around and walked back into the castle. Behind me, Pei Xiaoheng stood outside the iron bars, slowly crouching down, burying his head in his knees. A security guard walked over and escorted him away. He disappeared into the afterglow of the setting sun. Like someone who didn't belong to this world, I returned to the lobby. And Li Changyuan walked over with a glass of champagne and asked, "What's the matter?" "Nothing, just took a final look at an old friend." Li Changyuan didn't ask again. He just held my waist and said, "Come, I'll take you to cut the cake." The cake was 7 layers tall, each layer blanketed with cream and fresh flowers, and at the very top stood 2 little figurines, one groom and one bride. I held the knife, Li Changyuan held my hand, and we cut it together. Another round of applause and cheers. Lin Xiao shouted from the audience, "Kiss, one kiss, everyone." Followed suit and teased. Li Changyuan lowered his head to look at me and smiled. The voice of the people cannot be ignored. He kissed me this time. I kissed for a long time. The fireworks outside the window were still blooming, lighting up the whole night sky. I remembered that morning more than a year ago at Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris. A woman dragging a suitcase, standing alone, walked out of the terminal, took a deep breath, and told herself, "I am free." Back then, she didn't know that. What awaited her was not a calm life, but a glorious reversal. Now she knows life does not fail those who work hard. What you lose will come back in another form someday. What you need to do is, when you lose, not to cry, not to make a scene, not to admit defeat, then make yourself better, so good that those who once looked down on you can't even reach your silhouette. I leaned in Li Changyuan's arms and looked at the fireworks in the sky, and I smiled. This time, I really laughed.